All right, so recording now, and Justice, you made it. You can get on stage if you want to speak, Justice. You just go to the upper right-hand corner, and you select the hand, and then you can. I have it turned on, so you should be able to get right on stage if you want to speak. If you don't want to speak, don't worry about it. You could just type in the chat bubble. Oh yeah, he did request. Maybe because I haven't given him permission yet. All right, here we go. Invite. All right, you
Good
should be
morning,
able to.
guys.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, we're glad you're
Morning.
here. Uh, all
Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
So, have you come? I thought you were here last week. Were you here last week, or did you not? Is this your first one?
I, I I was, but I was in and out, because I was at work, and so it's the same with today. But yeah,
Mm, okay.
I was uh, I was able to just catch a glimpse of what you guys were doing.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
thought. I thought
I,
I
I,
seen
I
you.
was yeah.
Yeah, I thought I seen you floating around last time. All right. All right. So let's go to. All right. So where we left off last time was okay. So I ran into an issue on another project I was working on that I should have known better at this point in time. Was let me go into. Well, I'll do that at another time. But I guess the before once we get everything going, eventually we're gonna have to check for, I guess, when we get the URL going, or when I look for the when we get a URL for it, we're gonna have to check if that URL is already taken, and then check further research to see if the name's already taken, like if somebody's already using the name on some type of software application somewhere, um, before we actually get too crazy with it. But I guess we're just starting right now. We're just trying to get things going, so it doesn't matter. um, I was going to, I guess I can, yeah, I could do that. Let me share my screen, and I'll share my screen, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get things going real quick. Yeah, entire screen. All right, you guys probably see my first screen, um, and then I'm gonna put a browser tab in there, just because I wanted you guys to be able to. Well, maybe I should have. I think that defeats the purpose. All right, so yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Give me a second. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and then I'm gonna reshare the same screen like that. So that way I can just keep it all on one page. Sharing screen. There we go. All right. So I know this is gonna get crazy. Hopefully not. Let me see. All right, it's fine. All right, just so you guys can see that. Then wherever I'm going on the screen, um, I was just gonna go to. All right, so let me go back here and check for a second what we were doing. I gotta refresh my memory. Uh, oh yeah, we called it the AI Help Project for now. Oh, okay, that was the DM. We don't need to worry about that. Don't worry about those guys either. Let me see. All right, all right. So, um, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create a new repository, and we're just gonna, for now, I'm gonna leave everything blank. We're just gonna call it. Yeah, we didn't need to save that data. AI Health Project. I'm gonna name it the same for now, something kind of generic, just until we can figure it out. And then I'm gonna leave the description alone. Make it okay, Rigel. We talked about making it public versus private. What do you think? I know that was
I
last.
think, yeah, I mean, I think public is fine.
Yeah, public. All right, and then we'll initialize it with the README. For now, we'll just have no license, and we'll just leave it like that. And it's just so I can get you guys invited to it, and then we can, customize the README and then start being able to push code to that. So for now, that's good enough. And then we'll go to collaborators. Yes, I gotta use my GitHub mobile. So What numbers? All right. All right. So on this one, we got to add people. And who's going first? If you guys have a username, now you can see my screen and you can tell me when I'm typing it in if it's you or not. So this is why I wanted to do this right now with you guys. Uh, yours is it the Raijo still on yours?
Yes,
All right. And which one would yours be? This top one?
that's correct.
All right. And then we're gonna add you to that one. And then I know one other person gave me their username, and that was Chai Tea. How is your username on GitHub spelled?
It's capital C AI capital T and then 3
And then the number 3
and 4.
and 4. So did I spell it right? Is that it? Chai Tea 34.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Anybody else ready to give me their username for collaborating on this project?
1 second, I was gonna DM it to you.
Okay. And who's that speaking?
Jamsy.
Jamsy. All right.
Alright.
All right. You just sent it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Whoop, whoops. There we go. So is this one it right here? If he's looking on the screen, is it do I have the right?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Just want to make sure I don't want to invite somebody that's not here with us. Um, all right. Anybody else? We had oh,
Mine is
Jaffer.
J A capital J F F E R
Oh, JA
518. Yes. So it's like my name and 518.
518. So that one's got to be it, right? Jaffer 518. All right.
Yeah.
So we got 4. Who else we got? Justice.
It's. I think sent you mine. Let me. I just DM'd you mine.
Okay. Let me grab it. All right. That's got to be it.
Yep.
Well, we're all there. All right. So there's 2 ways we can go about this, and I'd like your feedback here, Rigel, on this one. So what I was thinking about was okay. Yeah, I'll leave that open. So what I was thinking about is walking through the starter files, the way I would set them up if we were going to use Bootstrap, uh, based on documentation. Because I have like when I use depending on the bundler I use with the whatever framework or however I'm going to build a project. Like if I'm going to use that CSS framework like Bootstrap, I usually um, default to the documentation's recommended setup because of the way Bootstrap is running with SCSS and their own type of JavaScript depending on what components we're using. So I was thinking, should I just set that up right here in front of everybody? Even though like the fact is that like okay, like for people that don't know, if I set up the starter files, that doesn't mean that you have to set them up because I was gonna set them up and then connect to the repository and push them. But for you guys, you would have to clone the repository, and then that's how you would connect to it. But you wouldn't have to go through the whole setup on the starter files. It would just be basically to help you understand what's going on. So I don't know, Raja, what do you think? You think that's like a necessary step to have on the recording, like how to set up starter files? with the bundler?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
All right.
What's the alternative?
The
You mean
alternative
to
was
have
just
people?
I just put it there and they just connect and then they get these files and they're not sure what they're looking at. So like that's what I was trying to avoid to either explain it
Yeah,
later on or just kind of just go through the walk through the process a little bit because I know not
yeah, I
everybody
think so.
maybe has been down that road before.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to go through and show a few of the star projects, and you might do other setup on behind the scenes. But that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to continue sharing my screen. I have okay. So the one I was thinking about using was Parcel. Um, for for our web bundler, and then we're gonna go with Bootstrap on the front end for now. I guess they're at version 5.3, so that's not the one I want. Let me make sure I'm at Bootstrap's home first. All right, there we go. New in 5.3. Now let's go to the docs. Uh, and then if you see where you have Bootstrap 5, it's gonna say Getting Started, and you're gonna have other sections like Customize, Layout. You'll have your content, forms, like for dealing with forms. You'll have components, uh, other helpers that have to do with the way you're using the framework itself. Then we have utilities, which go more further into like the details of the classes for Bootstrap. And then we have an extend and an about. But the ones that we'll be looking at right now is right here, Parcel, because I think that I've set up Parcel before on a Bootstrap project, and I think that Parcel is really good because V is an option, but unless I feel like V is more geared towards if we're going to use vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, that it would be more geared towards building natively in JavaScript. In other words, we'd be doing a lot of DOM manipulation and building natively in JavaScript, not necessarily the way we planned on building this project. We could alter that to go with the way we plan on building it, but I think it's the way it's set up, just leave it alone. And then Parcel's already set up to deal with HTML and CSS files or SCSS files, but like I was going to tell everybody that doesn't know SCSS, don't get scared of it. SCSS is not, when we're using Bootstrap, you're primarily going to be using Bootstrap classes to um, to style the components, and then the Bootstrap classes are going to look similar to inline styling because you're going to be selecting those classes to style. So like if I go to, we'll just go to, I don't know, their card component, and you'll see in their example code a lot of the where it says class, a lot of the unless they need to add the styling like explicitly without Bootstrap, or maybe you're gonna use like custom CSS. You really want to the point of using the CSS framework like Bootstrap is to use their classes to style. Like in other words, this button is blue here and it's styled with rounded corners and all that stuff because you're using the button component with the button primary styling from Bootstrap, and you shouldn't have to go into inline CSS like here. This is inline CSS when it's on the same line with the HTML at a basic level, and then we have external CSS, which is in an external document. We shouldn't have to go into an external document unless we're doing custom CSS with Bootstrap, or unless we're going to use our own custom color theme. And so we're going to have to maybe create our own in our SCSS file. We'll have to create our own variables. All right, so but that gets different. That's a little different. I'm just trying to give you a simple example of what Bootstrap of how Bootstrap does it. I know this looks a little generic, but you'll see as it goes, you can actually get a little more craftier than Bootstrap than what you think when you're learning. I think the one thing I was trying to get the point was, oh yeah, if we go back to Parcel now, you'll see during the setup when you're setting up Bootstrap and Parcel, I always at myself defer to documentation. And I feel like if I'm using a tech stack that, and I go to somewhere like Parcel, like I go to their documentation, And I feel like maybe between the two, there's not really. It feels kind of like a little more customization. It doesn't feel too much like a good fit. I'll look at other bundlers before I make my decision. So like I would say, like for example, I would use V not with Bootstrap. That's just me. You can use it for Bootstrap and just configure it the way you need to, but I would use V more for like React or maybe a Next.js with React project because it's ultimately you're using Next.js. It has React on the front end. You can't change that, or you could use just straight up React, or like maybe using like Vue or something like that. Or I'm pretty sure you can even use Vite. Vite has pre-configurations where you can use it with something like Svelte or or Solid, those newer frameworks too, not just like React. But they'll have like pre-configurations where when you start setting up Vite in a project, it'll you can select your front end framework or how or the front end or the setup that you want, the primary setup you want, and you would select like your framework, and it'll configure your files and everything for you according to that. But Vite doesn't have nothing like that for Bootstrap. Uh, you have to kind of like I feel like tweak it to make it work the way you want it to Bootstrap. So I pick Parcel because it's easy, and I always go with the project structure the way Bootstrap recommends it, which is here. If you guys ain't sure, I know we talked about different levels of experience before, but like file structure is important, and so is this source folder here up top. The way it should be setting up, because that's the way this source folder is the way the bundler is going to find our index HTML file and then use that as a source to run. Because we're using Bootstrap, we're going to run our code from this index HTML file just like we would if we were using just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript by itself. Um, so I'm going to walk
Quick,
through this. What was that?
quick thing. Do you want to maybe is everyone familiar with npm and package.json? Because that's another kind of high level aspect of these projects.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I would eventually yeah, because they're gonna have to learn how to use npm in the command line. Yeah. So it's not bad. It's just how many of you guys know how to use like if I go back to the screen, how many of you guys have experience with like npm?
I don't.
I don't.
Okay, well, we can walk it through at a basic level, and then you guys don't gotta freak out because we're not gonna be using it really heavily on this project. Maybe at a certain point, if we start adding more like the dependencies to the project, but the initial setup's gonna add just the dependencies we need just to get going. I think when we start getting into like the AI side of things, that's gonna start getting different. That's when you're gonna have to know probably a little more than you should than just the bare minimum. Uh, what about Jaffer or Justice? Have you guys used
Yep.
I
npm?
don't.
Okay,
I have
so
not.
so like just a quick just to get a quick uh feel for everybody. Everybody's got VS Code, right?
Yeah.
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 All right. How many of you run not JavaScript in your VS Code like every day you're running JavaScript? Like how many of you already know that you have Node.js set up in your environment? So let's do that just in case you guys don't, because that's going to
I
be important too. I think that's something uh, like if you go into, all right, let me just share my VS Code for a second, and then I'm going to show you how to do it in the VS Code terminal. You don't have to do it in the VS Code terminal. You can do it in any terminal you want. Me, I like to do it within VS Code, and then I like to use Bash, Get Bash. You can use it whatever you got. It's not going to make no difference. They're all similar. But like if you say node, oops, if you type in node and then dash V, just like that in your terminal. Make sure you have your terminal selected, and then you hit enter. It's going to tell you if you have Node.js set up on your environment and what version you have, and mine's always the latest version. So if you see when I push enter, it says version 2011.0. That should be the latest stable version, and that's the version. If we go up here, if I go to Node.js, at .org, I believe it was. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was Node.js.org. And the first page you're gonna see is okay. Now they just updated. So I just updated that not long ago, and now they have 2011.1. So like you can get the same that same version, and I can just update mine to the latest version later on. It's not gonna hurt. I don't know if they how many. I don't think they've made too many changes. Uh, but this is the latest stable version recommended. When it says recommended for most users, that's the one you want. You don't want the latest features unless like you're like there's like different reasons why you want this one. Just don't I don't want to like confuse you or nothing like that. But that's usually uh, for like more experienced developers trying to test the new features and they really know what they're doing. For this one right here, this is the one you're gonna want because this is the stable version. And if anything starts, if you download this version and you start using your Node.js environment for anything, and anything goes wrong, it's usually because you went wrong, not because there's a bug in Node.js. So that's why you use this version here when you're just a beginner, when you're just starting out, or just for most people, I still use the latest stable version because I'm not here trying to experiment with the latest features before they go stable. So like this is the one you're gonna want, the LTS. Anything further, Rigel? You think they should
Yeah, I would
know?
just say at a high level, Node.js is a runtime for JavaScript outside the browser, like on your computer. And it's used for managing these projects oftentimes. So you'll have a project with a package.json, and the package.json provides a configuration for the project, and that configuration is specifically for npm. So you can do things like initialize the configuration for the project. You can update the configuration and add tasks and things like that, and they can be used to run, to test the project. So it's kind of just a core file that relates to using Node.js in order to build your project and run your project while you're developing it. So there are a lot of details, a lot of things to learn that aren't you can dive into later, but that's the high level of it, and you can use Node.js in order to install packages into your project. So like you could use it to add certain things like React or Bootstrap or certain libraries, and that's going to be done by running Node commands using npm.
Yep.
And yeah, that's the gist of it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And then the other thing is that like I was showing you, when you have Node.js in there, you don't have to worry about downloading npm because I believe npm is automatically installed when you install Node.js. So if I do npm-v, I'll have that already on my machine somewhere. Probably the latest version. The one that you're gonna have to get if you don't have already for GitHub is Git. So there's going to be two things you got to download if you haven't yet. One's going to be Node.js, and you're going to want the latest stable version, and then you're going to want to like go through the prompts, and then if you want, you can just accept all the defaults. You don't even worry about like custom configuring unless you know what you're doing. Just accept all the defaults and install it, and you'll be fine for what we're doing. I don't think you guys need all the custom configuration to do anything more than what we're doing or to do what we're doing. All right, so just accept the defaults when you do that. The other one was Git, not GitHub, but you're gonna want to go to Git itself, and it's this orange one here. If you click on Git, you're gonna want to download right here. If you see on the front page, they have latest source release. If you go download for Windows, and then you're gonna want to click here on this link where it says click here to download version 2.43.0. Download that one, and then you'll get the latest version of Git. And then when that one prompts you, if it should prompt you to keep Git up to date automatically for you, and just click yes because you're gonna want this one to stay up to date. Node.js, it doesn't have that option. If you want to update it, you either got to use the command to update it, or you can just reinstall it the way you installed it, and it'll just override it. It'll just update it like that way too.
So and also you guys know the difference between Git and GitHub.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so one's the client, and then one's like a service for hosting repositories.
Yeah, and that's the only way you're gonna connect to GitHub too. If you don't have Git on your side, on the client side, on your local environment, you're not gonna be able to commit. You're not gonna be able to connect to the GitHub repository when you're trying to clone the repository and then start pushing the project. Even when you clone, just right from the clone, when you attempt to clone, you're gonna get an error. It's not gonna let you. So make sure you have Node.js, the latest stable version, and then and Git installed on your machine. If you haven't, you're gonna need it. But that's what I didn't click on it because I already have it. I think the version I have is 10.2.4. Geez, thought I had one newer than that. Let me see, 10.2.4. No, that's was that Git? Let me double check that. Oh, npm. I'm sorry, I didn't check Git. I'm pretty sure I could do it the same way though. Yeah, 2.43.0. All right, so I have the latest version on Git because when on mine, when I do my setup, I just always, if it gives me an option to keep it up to date, I do that. But I think Node.js doesn't because I guess depending on what versions of frameworks or software you're using, you might have to have a certain version of Node.js on there. So I think that's why Node.js doesn't do that. But for our purposes, we're using the newest version of Bootstrap. We're gonna use the newest versions of everything. That's just how I roll. Like when I build my own projects too, I use the latest versions of everything. I don't use anything old. The only time I ran into those type of things was when I used to be a student at a coding boot camp. They were teaching us specific versions of things, and we had to have certain versions of Node.js. And I think that's good because you might, for everybody that might get into software like seriously, there might come a time when you're either working on a project or working somewhere, and you have to have specific versions of these things installed before you can even, before otherwise you're not going to be able to run and develop on that project. All right. So like, is everybody good to go on that? Is everybody getting that done right now, or do you guys already have that kind of thing done already?
I'm installing Git.
Okay. I was gonna wait till everybody's up to speed.
I installed both of them already.
Okay. And then your VS Code though, you don't want to keep the same instance of it open. You want to, if you opened it before you installed, then you want to close it and reopen it after the installation, so that way it can pick up on the installation. And then you can run those commands like I ran. I'll show the commands again so you can see them. And you can just, if you type in node-v or npm-v, but make sure there's space there. Where there's space, it'll show you. If it shows you that the current version, then you know you're good to go. Then your version is going to be a little bit newer than mine on Node, but maybe on npm, but on Git we should have the same numbers, and then that's just letting you know we're good to go. Like, don't. And this is like part of the terminal is sometimes it's good to, like, okay, you use it to install things like we're going to see right now in a little bit, but you're also going to use, you can also use it to navigate between your files. And then you can also use it, like you can use it for a lot of things. You can even code inside of this environment if you want, like code JavaScript in it, but I don't. I like to just code JavaScript in my JS files and VS Code and run them. But some people, they take it like they know the terminal really well, and they can actually do a lot with the terminal, like a lot more with the terminal than just installing and checking versions of things. Let me shrink that a little bit for now. Mm. Oh yeah, we got Lou with us and 94 DJ Red. All right. If you guys want to speak on stage, go for it. Or click the hand in the upper right hand corner, and I'll go ahead and give you guys permission. Otherwise, you can type in the chat. But I think 94 DJ Red, I think you're new. I don't think I've seen you here yet. Lou, I remember you from last week. So what we're doing, if you guys, since you guys just showed up, let me close this for a second. If you're seeing me sharing my screen, uh, we're installing, making sure that we have Node.js installed in our environment and Git. I'm sorry, not GitHub, Git. So you got to make sure you have Git installed. When you go to like Git's homepage, you just go to download for Windows if you have Windows. If you have Mac, then maybe you're gonna have to follow the instructions for Mac. But for Windows, just download for Windows, and then you click the click here to download the latest version. Node.js, make sure you get the latest stable version, which is 2011.1. The one that says recommended for most users, that's the one you're gonna want to use. And then we went over a little bit of Bootstrap and Parcel, not much really. We just kind of introduced it. It's a web bundler, but there's reasons why people use web bundlers. We can get into that if anybody has questions. But first, I wanted to make sure that you guys at least had uh, Node.js and Git installed on your machine. And then so that way you have access to npm and being able to run JavaScript in your local environment with VS Code. And these are the commands here in the terminal. Once you install those packages, you can accept all the defaults on installing those packages too. But on Git, you're going to want to check the option to keep it up to date. But once you've installed those, then you can run this command right here. All it is checking the version of Node. Make sure you have that space there. Same thing with npm and the same thing with Git. And if as long as you get the current version back that you downloaded, then you're good to go. This is the current version. And npm, don't worry about where I gotta go to download that. You don't have to go to npm. You get that automatically installed when you install Node.js on your environment. Quick recap. Mhm. And then if Lou or 94 DJ Red, if you guys are going to contribute to the project, we also started a GitHub. I'll show you the GitHub in a second. Um, or right here. And we already added those of us that were here already. We already added them to the repository. But I would need your guys' Git username so that way I can add you to the repository if you're ready to. If you know when you want to, whenever you're ready to collaborate. And then if you're not ready yet, whenever you're gonna get ready, you can go ahead and just DM me, and then I'll add you later. Lou joined us on stage.
Username. Do you
All
want it
right.
now?
Yeah, we could do that now. Let's do it. What
Okay,
is
my
it?
username is Lou Rosas, LOUROSAS, all lowercase, all one word.
All right. Is it this one right here? The one I'm looking at on screen?
Let's see. Can't read that.
It looks like it. It says
Yeah, that's me.
LOUROSAS, just one word. All right. Just a picture too, because it's usually I always ask if you don't have a picture on your GitHub just to make sure that I have the right person. Because
Yep, that's
normally,
me.
you see, if I seen a picture that you have already on the platform, then it helps. But like my GitHub has a picture. So like you'll see the same picture I use on all my social platforms. I keep them all the same, so you know it's me. All right. Um, so these are those commands again. And then where was 94 DJ Red? Let me see. All right. If you want to speak, go for it. And then if you want to give me your username on GitHub, uh,
94
it's the same, 94
94
D,
DJ, sir. Yes, same.
but with the red at the end, or just 94 DJ.
94 DJ.
This one here.
Yes, that one.
All right. So you're on there. What's your level of experience? Are you new? Is this your first time here? I don't recall you from the previous session.
This is my new first time.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. Just double check that. All we did last week was we picked a project or the type of project, and then and then I gave everybody access to that channel, or I created a channel right here on Discord on the server, so we can all communicate if we need to during the week regarding the project. And then now we're just going through the initial setup of getting our repo set up, connecting to it, but also getting the starter file set up, things like that.
So do you think we're good to move forward, or is there anyone that would like us to hold a little longer?
Yeah, that's what I was curious about too. I was curious if everybody's still going or if I should move, because I didn't want to move on and then somebody still needed me to share whatever I was sharing. How's everybody good?
I'm good.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right. So let me move that out the way then. I just wanted that there for a second, just so that way you guys can. All right. So the remainder is okay. So what we're gonna go over is setting up the starter files, but it's not how can I say it? It's not like it's something to take note of if you want, but it's something that you're not gonna have to do because the I'm gonna do it initially. But well, once the starter files are pushed to the repo, then you guys will be able to uh, get access to that and pull it. But I'll show you how to do that. So for now, I guess it's something we can all do is connect to it. I guess everybody has different methods. What do you think, Rigel? Always recommend the cloning method. If you clone it, just connect to it that way. Maybe there's another way, but I always just
Sounds
clone.
good.
All right.
You might want to give a brief description of the different cloning methods,
Whoa.
like SSH versus the CLI versus whatever, especially since I think I think they deprecated like recommending SSH. That was like
Yeah,
years
they
ago
did.
though.
They did. Yeah, no, you're right. They did because I've used SSH years ago, and then one day I came back and it was gone. So like you know what I mean? Because they of course they notify you of the update, and then they notify you regarding how to switch. But like all I do is for the cloning method is you go to the repository. So like say for example you go to your GitHub repo. First you got to make sure you're connected. So let me see who's even connected first, and then I'll step back and look. So 94 DJ hasn't connected, and uh, JM Baruka 148 hasn't connected, and Lou Rosas hasn't connected. Yeah. So whenever you guys get connected, I'm gonna walk through this real quick. You can follow the process. So the rest of you that have gotten connected already, um, or you're a collaborator now, you've accepted the collaboration request. You just make sure when you go into, like, for example, you're gonna see your homepage, whatever your homepage looks like, and then you go to your repository and make sure you pick the AI health project, and it's gonna send you over to this page here. And I know it looks pretty bare there, but you're gonna want to select code and leave it at HTTPS. Don't go anywhere else because we're not using these options. We're gonna use the HTTPS. We're gonna do a clone, and you want to use the copy URL to clipboard option. And once I've done that, give me a second. Once I've done that, you need to create a project folder. So like before I type the command here, I'm not gonna do that yet. I need to create a project folder. So like me, maybe I don't like keeping things on my local environment. Give me 1 second. I gotta plug in my SSD. I don't like keeping things on my computer because this computer's it's a 2-year-old iffy computer right now. That's why I'm thinking about getting
I
rid of
mean,
it.
it's a Git repo, so who cares?
Yeah, yeah, I know. But like for me, it's just because you're
No, I
right.
know.
Because I
And
know
you have
if it does,
local work and everything. So
if it does, RIP on me, I could just it'll be there. But I just feel like that, and then I don't like running everything on my SSD that's built into my computer. I like running it off my private SSD, my external SSD. All right, so give me a second. It'll only take me a second to log into it. All right, and then do you guys know how to use your file explorer? I mean, we could go through the so let's just go there, file explorer. So if you have your Windows File Explorer open, I'm gonna go to my SSD because that's where I go. But you can go to I would prefer if you're gonna do it, maybe put it in your documents. It's like if you see, I don't really keep much on this computer because lately it's been kind of it's been a little bit nuts with me, this computer. So all right, so me just maybe I'll create a for now I'm just gonna create a folder and we're gonna call it we'll call it, what can we call it? We'll just call it um, I'll just call it public. Since we made it a public repository, I'll just call it a public project for now. And then that's all I wanted. Just create a folder that you're gonna want to clone this project into, and just so that way you don't have to worry about all the command line stuff for right now. All you're gonna do is just open that folder in your in VS Code. So make sure you're in your Explorer, and yes, you trust the authors because it's you. Um, but make sure you're inside of that folder right here. And then you open your terminal. However you open it, I usually just push Control back tick, and the command you'll want to enter to clone it is git clone, and then I'm pretty sure just paste that. So let me double check that first because I do that's usually the normal way I do it. You just get clone and then the URL that we copied from GitHub. So before I push enter, I'm gonna double check that really quick. So one thing you're gonna see is eventually you're gonna have to get really good at your research. So like there's gonna be things that you want to do and nobody's always gonna be there to hold your hand or to walk you through things, and then you have to become like self-sufficient. So then you're gonna have to figure out like, okay, how do I uh, and then see like I didn't really, so it gave me that, but here we'll go desktop. I'm pretty sure. All right, so where's the command? I already know what I'm looking for. I just want to make sure I got the command right. Yeah, git clone and the link that we copied. That's it. So that's the basic command, git clone, just so you know. But make sure that you get that link from here, nowhere else. And so now I'm going to go back VS Code, and then we should be able to just push enter. It should be fine. And then we're done. All right, so then we're gonna have another folder here, and I know that sucks. So what I would say is now we need to close this folder because we did the way I did it. You're gonna want to close that folder because Node.js is gonna give you an error if you're trying to run Node.js from a folder that's external to your main folder of your project. So you're gonna want to go back into open the don't open from now on, don't open the project from the public folder that I created, or if you did it similar, open it from the AI help project folder because that's the folder that's going to host your files. That's the folder that you want to be running code from and from your Node.js environment. Otherwise, if you do it from the external, this second folder, you're going to end up with errors and you're going to be knocking your head on your desk trying to figure out why you're getting errors. So make sure up here you're just in your AI health project once you clone it, and all you're gonna see right now is just your README. That's it, and that's all you should have right now. So it's fine if you guys go ahead um, and connect at this point because then I'll show you how to pull and push. I like to use the GUI, but you could do it from the command line if you like, whatever. But me, I like doing things from the GUI. I'm just like that. But Rigel, you got any objections on that? You think either way is
No, I would
fine?
just recommend, yeah, I think either way is fine for this. I would say anyone though who wants to learn Git, I would at least run through some tutorials and practice running it from the command line, even if that's not your go-to strategy, and just try to have an understanding of the basics of what's going on. Because yeah, Git has a pretty specific way it works, and it's pretty important to have that foundation. So, but it's not necessary to use the terminal all the time. I waffle between terminal and UIs.
Yeah, that's how I do it. I just like if I don't need like unless something so it is good to know the terminal because like if something complex is coming up that I can't solve within the source control here, you'll see this how it changes once we start pushing, uh um I've had to do research and then turn just to my running terminal commands to fix any issues I've had because you can't solve them all from here. All right.
One thing you could show really quick is the .git folder in the project in the terminal, and you could show how that kind of exists in the project because it's a repo, and then that's where it stores the files related to Git.
Oh, the .git folder? Yeah, because that was dropped in, but you don't see it here. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, just so that they know that there's, it's not really magic. It's just there's a folder. If you do just, like an LSLA, it'll show the hidden .git folder, and then that's just people can know that's where it's storing like the files that let it know when you pull and push what's, where it's coming from. So it's not just a blank folder.
Yeah, it's not. So like just real quick, if you look at that folder, what he's talking about, like if you looked into that folder, uh, there's a hidden Git file here. You can, if you double clicked on it, you can see it, but if you look at back at GitHub, it's not there. Or VS Code, I'm sorry, VS Code, it's not there. All it's going to show us is our README. The Git and that Git folder is also how Git's keeping track of what repository that this code or this project's living on. Um, all right, so we're done with these. Uh, yeah. Oops. Does anybody have any questions right now?
For installing or not installing, but project folder. Give me a second. Sorry, that was family. But like, how did you?
What was that? How did I what?
How did you clone the repository?
Okay, so cloning the repository? Oh yeah, that's right. You missed. I didn't notice that you missed that. So let me go to back where I was. All right, GitHub. So did you make sure that you had this link here when you go to the repository?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then uh, back where we started. All right, so I don't want to do it. I can't run it again, but basically you're gonna want to type in git clone and make sure the spacing's there, and then you're gonna want to paste the link there. So it's gonna look like this. I'm not gonna run it again because I already ran it, but that's what you type. You type git space clone space, and then you paste the link in there, and then you hit enter, and it'll do the rest for you. So just let me know when that works
Okay.
for you.
I got it. Oh, good.
Oops.
Yep, I think we're ready to continue. I think she said she's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. Sorry.
All right. Anybody else, or is everybody good? Let me erase this because I don't want to accidentally run that again. All right.
So I use IntelliJ more, but one feature I like in an IDE is like a find any action shortcut because it can be used to open terminals and do things like that, like search for files. I'm not sure what it is on VS Code, but Fernando, it was Fernando, correct? Or is
Yeah, that's right.
there a find any shortcut that can use so people forget where to open the terminal,
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like
there
that?
is. I forgot what it was. I think it was Get Help or something like that. Let me look for it.
Is it Control Shift P? I'm seeing something online. I'm on a Mac, so it might differ for you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Control Shift P is probably not gonna fly on my on my Windows. Yeah, usually I notice that.
That's Windows. That's the
Oh
Windows
okay.
command because
Oh
it's
is it?
Control,
All
I
right.
think.
I know there is though, cause like I've seen it before. All right. So like, give me 1 second. I'm trying to look for it right now to see if I can get the Git command for the, cause there is this like you'll see online. There are cheat sheets that you can find online, but you want to get like a good cheat sheet. But like, let's look. Let me look at that really quick, cause right now I'm not seeing the. There's actually a command you could type in. We'll see it right now. I think that's Geeks for Geeks. I don't like Geeks for Geeks. Git
So
documentation
yeah,
probably has it.
try Control Shift P. It looks like that's like
Control
a
Shift
command
P.
palette. There might be a separate one as well, but like yeah, you can say like it's like a fuzzy find from there, and you can do like open terminal and then look at the output. And I kind of like having like a base of like if you search Control Shift P and then you type like open terminal.
Right here in are you talking about right here
Yeah,
in VS
and then
Code?
you type it in like open terminal or something like that. Um, so like yeah, then you can look and you can and it will show shortcuts on the right, and then on the left it'll show the things. So you can do like terminal create new profile, create new terminal, terminal create new terminal. Like one of those, I think, like create new terminal, like that, for example.
What profile?
If you click that,
Git bash.
yeah, and then you get bash. That's maybe not the best example, but like if someone's lost and they're trying to get to the terminal, you can like look up shortcuts and like run through and familiarize yourself with the UI, but you can also use like a find any type shortcut to find stuff. And sometimes that can be useful. So just if someone has one shortcut they want to memorize to start, something like that might be handy. Just a suggestion.
All right. Uh, let me see. Oh, I think it's dash dash help. So, all right, back to where we were. If we do dash dash, oops, if you do dash dash help, I believe that's the one. I didn't. All right, so Git was wrong. Maybe because I'm using bash. Let me look.
You missed you just have the flag, not the command.
All right, right. Git help. Yeah, right. All right, let me see. All right. All right, here we go. Now it's giving us like a list of most commonly used commands. One is like you'll see git. You have to prefix it with git, and you're gonna have clone. We'll use init um, when we run npm in the project. Uh, but that's in npm. I'm sorry, don't confuse that with
Yeah,
git.
this is
Yeah, do init.
get in as for a new repo.
Yeah, and then we have our add, move, rename, restore, remove files. That's good too. Bisect. All right, that one's like a little bit more.
Yeah, so for anyone
All right.
who's not super familiar, oh, sorry, continue.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Whatever you're gonna say, I don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, so the basics here are that you have your local your local repository, and it has the project, and it also keeps track of changes you've made. And then you have the remote repository. So the general idea here is you're going to be updating your project. When you're ready to commit your changes to your local repository, you're going to add the files, you're going to stage the files, which gets them ready to be committed, and then you're going to commit them. And then you have your local repository updated, and then when you're ready to update the remote repository, you're going to do a push or do a pull request through GitHub or something like that. But that basically moves those changes, merges them into the remote repository. So that's the general workflow. You're going to update files, make a local commit, and then push to the remote.
Yeah, and then we need to create. What do you think, having a development branch versus everybody on the main? Because I think right now everybody would be on the main, wouldn't they? And then they'd have to change branches if they've already connected. That's if we do another branch. I mean, we only have one branch. Uh, yeah, we'd have to create another branch if we want. I don't know. It's up to you. What do you think?
I go for it. Create a branch locally, push it to the remote, and then just we can instruct people to switch to the dev branch.
All right. All right, we'll do that. Does anybody else have questions about what we've done already? I'm trying to make sure you guys are okay, that you're following along. I guess not. All right. Um, yeah, but I was trying not to get like too much for them. All right, so like, cause I know it's like a process. So like, yeah, I think like the best thing to do is so that way you guys don't feel so overwhelmed is um like what Rigel suggested earlier is if you're a little bit lost when it comes to the terminal, just yeah, go through the tutorial, like one at a basic level at least, and then I could find one and then share it in the channel if it helps anybody. I could look for one and find one for you, and then share it on the channel, and then you can just watch it whenever you want, and that'll just show you a little bit more basic, because I feel like trying to explain too much or throw too much at you about the terminal, it's just gonna go over your head if you don't already know what's going on with it. All right. So don't worry about that. It's gonna say manage unsafe repository, or I don't know if it did on your end, but it does on mine. Don't worry about that for right now. Um, Let me just trash that. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I think that would be a good one to go through though. Maybe maybe if everybody here watches like that tutorial sometime, and then maybe go through that a little bit more, like showing you how to pull and push and all that with in the terminal with once you understand the terminal a little more. Um, all right. So for now, oops, let me go back to what I was doing. Yeah. So I'm not sure how to explain this without going too crazy with it, but basically, I guess at a basic level, and if Rigel wants to add to it, he can. I feel like at like what the purpose of the web bundler is not just because okay, so like back when web dev first started, like you had to do everything that a bundler does for us nowadays in the modern times. Just like I know you guys don't know what that is yet, but like just everything we're gonna learn about a bundler, you used to have to do all that manually yourself back in the day. And so like the modern bundlers these days, they put all these tools that together and they automate them so that way we can save time and just work on the project, and we ain't got to worry about a lot of things that well, depending on how complex the project is to begin with, but I mean, for the most part, we don't have to worry about a lot of things that we had to worry about back in the day. And one of them was like, I guess one at a basic level, one of them would be like optimization is like, so like for example, if we made a basic website in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and even if we put it all in one file, like old school, where we had inline styles and the script tag with all our JavaScript in it, and our HTML file, like all living in an HTML file, like they did probably back in the 90s or earlier, uh, you could, or however you do it, even if it was external, CSS in JavaScript, you can technically go to a hosting service and just host that somewhere. But depending on how big it is, it's not going to be, that's not how you're supposed to do it. Maybe that at one point in time that might have been okay, but like nowadays that's a no-no. So like at a what you want to learn is what the bundler is and what it's doing. And what the bundler does is it's basically going to take those files and it's going to call what's called minification. It's going to minify them and it's going to optimize them for performance. So that way your application runs really, really fast, and it's also going to do what's called tree shaking. It does other things too, but it's going to do what's called tree shaking, and it's going to shake out maybe CSS or JavaScript that you're not using for you, depending on how it's set up or if it does it automated. I believe Parcel does it all automated for us. It's going to shake out any extra CSS or JavaScript that we're not using out of the build file. So our files, our original files are going to look the same, but our build file that itself is going to look completely different because it's going to have a bunch of code on one line, no spaces, not none of the fancy way that we do to format code or nothing like that. And then we're going to take that build file in the end when we're done, when we think we're ready, and we're going to host it somewhere at a hosting service. And then that's when we're going to see our project go live. And it's going to run a lot quicker than just taking all those files without a bundler and just hosting them somewhere. And if you've done that before, because I'm not gonna lie, I have. When I first started learning, I've hosted my files just straight up like that, and they are really really slow. Maybe you won't realize it at first because you don't have an eye for it when you're less experienced. But over time, when you get more experience and you start getting introduced to bundlers, and my first bundler was Webpack, which was a lot harder than Parcel. There's a lot of configuration on Webpack. Webpack's a damn nightmare nowadays. Nowadays, it's like if you're still using Webpack, like what the hell's wrong with you? Because there's better ones than that, or ones that are easier to set up. Like Webpack is like, I don't know. That's just my opinion, though. Maybe other people have other opinions, but I think Webpack is just too much of a nightmare to be dealing with anymore. But that's one of the first ones I learned. And but even that, even the complexity of the setup for me at the time, once I hosted my website that I had going on with Webpack, it was like so much faster. Even the load time, everything was just so much better, and even the development environment, I wasn't using like you'll hear about Live Server by Ritwik Day, I think it is. That's the one everybody uses in VS Code. You can pretty much throw that one in the trash if you want once you learn how to use bundlers, because like Parcel's gonna have a built-in dev server, and then the way we're gonna configure it is just for development. We're not gonna configure it yet to build a build file for production. That's the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna configure it lastly to run the command for a build file, so that way at the end we have that final build file that we're going to run. But it's never going to change, it's never going to be or it's always going to change, it's never going to be final, because if anybody at some point says, part of this project I want to update the project more, that I make it better, or optimize it, or whatever it is, whatever the case is, you're always going to end up in the end running a new build file. And then it's similar to what Rigel was trying to hint at before about I guess you would call it like a pipeline, a development pipeline. What's the terms for it again, Rigel? Remind me. CI/CD.
Yeah.
So like
I'm
part
not
of
sure what
that,
you're referring to, but yeah.
yeah. So like part of it, like some of these things we have online, they kind of um, automate some of that a little bit depending on how you're developing. So like I like to use Versal like for my hosting service, because Versal connects directly to your GitHub, and as soon as you update your build file from GitHub, it runs that build file like within seconds on Versal on your hosting environment, and everything's all connected there already. You don't got to worry about doing all the reconnections yourself every time you want to run a build file. So that's what I like about it. Is it automates a lot of that process for you, so that way all you got to worry about is building your project, and you can let these modern tools just handle it for you. You got to do a lot of that stuff yourself anymore. So like that's in a nutshell. Is there anything you want to add to that? Because the reason why if anybody's asking, I'm deferring to Rigel, because he's the one here with a lot of experience. So and then so like just if I miss something, he'll be able to answer, or maybe he thinks there's something we should add to it for you guys. He'll add to it.
No, that sounds good. my summary would be that, we have our application files in the project, and they include files that need to be served to the user's browser. So what a bundler does is it processes and combines those files into a production build, and using the optimizations that Fernando mentioned, and then that can, they'll just be ready to, so that when it's deployed to, it can be served from a server, then the client gets some efficient files, and it can include features like code splitting or and various optimizations. So yeah, that's how it's integrated into our project. So yeah, sounds good. Parcel is pretty simple configuration. It has a lot of defaults, set, so it's a lot easier than Webpack, like you said.
All right, so I'm gonna put this thing here. Let me just make, I guess, blow it up. But I can't have my browser open and this open at the same time in the same window. So I'm gonna go ahead and open Bootstrap's documents. Just that way I can, if you guys go to Bootstrap's documents, if you're trying to figure out like, okay, what am I doing, where am I getting what I'm getting to put type into the terminal here, you don't have to follow along here because I'm gonna have all this done and pushed to the repo already. It's just for you, so that way you can see, okay, well, what am I doing? Basically, if you go to Bootstrap's homepage, it's going to show you we're on version 5.3.2 is the current version, and that's where you want to go to the documentation for that version. And if we go click on where it says getting started, you click underneath that, it's on the left hand side. You click on Parcel, and it's going to walk you through how to set up a Bootstrap with Parcel for a project. And basically, that's the setup I'm using. And there's two ways to do it. We can do it with um, we can do it with the command line, or without it. But there's some things you can't do without the command line. Like for example, um, if you're looking at it, you're going to see where it says setup. Stage one is, or step one is going to say create a project folder and set up npm. So creating a project folder, you can use the command line or you don't have to. But setting up npm, you have to use the command line. So that's the difference there, is that we're not going to be able to set up npm in a GUI on VS Code like you could. Like there's certain things, like I said, in their GUI, like this source control GUI here, you'll see how it changes when you start using it. That you can do, and there's certain things that no matter what you're gonna have to run in the terminal. So that's why it's a good idea to check out a tutorial or two on the terminal, so you understand what it's doing and how to work with it, so it doesn't seem like so puzzling, or like yeah, to remove the mystery. All right, so
Question: do you think if you run through and explain using the GUI the first time, do you think it's worth doing a second where you just quickly run through the terminal and show like and describe how they map, or do you think they'll take up too much time? Because might be able to, comparing side by side might be useful. The one nice thing about terminal is that it's kind of agnostic to the IDE you're using. So it's going to be, if you want to use a different IDE in the future, having familiarity
yeah.
helps. But
Oh yeah, because VS Code tries to build in a lot of things into it. So like it's, yeah, and then if they end up going somewhere and they're like, no, you can't use that terminal, you have to use or you can't use that environment, you have to use our environment or something else. Yeah, it's gonna be different. So like I'm showing you guys VS Code, and then like methods I like to use just because they're faster, and I don't feel like I have to type in so much, and it's just how helps me work faster. But like there's so many different methods you can do, and then there's other methods that, like for example, if you want to be hireable at a company, that it's good to learn and keep up to date with, so that way like if they call it out on you, you can just do it right away, you can demonstrate it in front of them because that's what they're going to want. For me, I don't feel that pressure because I'm ready. I'm doing I'm doing my thing. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm doing my thing for now. I'm not saying I wouldn't work at another company, maybe in the future, but not right now. But for those of you that plan that don't feel like going through the craziness of running your own business, the hardships and all that, because it is hard, it's not easy, and you feel like I want to just have it ready made, like I want to go to apply, you know, after learning my skill set, I want to apply to a company that's ready made, that's got benefits for me, that's going to offer me a salary. then that's when you have to be really really proficient, and you have to demonstrate that during the technical interviews. They're gonna want they might not even let you use VS Code. They might make you use whiteboard. So they might take you out of something like a code editor and make you use a whiteboard, or because they just want to see your thought process, or maybe they're gonna take you into another environment besides VS Code, and they're gonna take away all your tools from you because they want to see that you can actually code without having to rely on AI auto completing everything for you. So like there's different scenarios I've seen, but like I would say that um, um, it's a lot. It's like nowadays in our modern times, it's good to know all these skills because there's a lot that goes into the interview process now, especially for those of you that like maybe you want to work somewhere like Google or Amazon or Microsoft or Facebook, Meta or something like that. Then you're gonna have to get to a level of proficiency that's pretty damn high for a entry level. But then, once you're there and you're job ready and you start actually working in that environment, you'll appreciate why it's like that because there's a reason why it's set up like that. It's just is what it is, but it's a good thing, I think. All right. But yeah, hey, Joe, that was a good point. All right, so like, yeah, I thought like maybe I can just create a video for you guys sometime on something, and just because that's what I have that YouTube channel for, and then and um and just post it there, and then share it here because it's good if I start just creating some of this content because 2 hours is gonna be, like, or 2 hours is gonna go by quick. So let me just quit yakking here and get on to what we're doing. Any other input you want to give, Rigel?
I'm good.
All right, so yeah, that's a good point. So like, you might not always be working in VS Code, especially if you're gonna be applying yourself later. Um, all right, so like, we already have our project. The way I did it was kind of like, yeah, manually. The way you could do it on Bootstrap, that's if you just did it straight up from the command line. Um, but if you don't, if you're not, depending on how comfortable you are with that, maybe you feel like you're not because you feel like you're just running blind. But like that's why I said I'll make a video. But like the first one, I'm gonna run here, which you don't have to worry about it yet, because or actually I think I don't believe so. I think actually when you actually pull it initially, you might have to run this command anyway. All right, so didn't we have to run, or was it just npmi, the install command, when you fresh to a repository, something already exists? Because right now we have nothing in there. I'm gonna create it exist. Wasn't it npm install to get all the dependencies installed on their development, or was it npm init? The npm init, right? But that's gonna give them all the dependencies, isn't it?
So yeah, npm init will initialize the npm project. So if you don't have any npm project, then it will create one for you, and then you're going to be doing that. So when people pull the project, it'll be fine. They'll just get the npm project with the package file, but they'll have to run npm install because that will take the dependencies in the project, and then it will install those packages onto your
On their
local
machine,
machine.
right? Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah, I was trying to make sure that when they do, like, okay, so we're gonna have to put that into our README file on GitHub too. Just that way you guys, there's a lot that goes into README files. Maybe I could do a video on that too. But for README files, they pretty much explain the project and how to use it. Especially, it's more important for, I think, like open source, but like since we're doing it collectively, it's still important. So like, especially for newcomers, if they need to come in, run the clone command, get connected, and then turn around and install the project on their machine with all the dependencies, they got to still have those basic commands that they're gonna have to run anyway. So the first one I ran was npm init to initialize npm in the project, and it's gonna give me this object. And now we have a package JSON, which just is just a bunch of objects, or normally it is right here. It's not. It's just an object nested within another object, but these can get pretty big. You'll see it's got a version, a description, and we can add this description later at some point. Right now it's looking for an index.js file, but we're going to change all that with our setup. And we can change the authors later. Maybe we can, normally when I have multiple people, I'll put multiple people's GitHub usernames in there. And the license, right now. I don't have it. I don't want it open source because it's our project. I usually just go unlicensed because that gives nobody permission besides us to use the code here. So like basically, when something's not licensed, it means that don't come into our repository and hijack our project. You can't do whatever you want with it. It's basically our project. But that's like if you're working on something personally that you'd want to monetize, then right from the beginning you're gonna want it unlicensed, and you're not gonna want it in a public repo to begin with. You're gonna want it in a private repo because that's
One
gonna get, huh?
Yeah, one technicality, and you might want to look into this, Fernando, is that I'm not sure. This isn't something really to worry about with the casual project necessarily, but if this code is unlicensed, I'm not sure about our legal status as collaborators, because even though we're on the team and we can contribute, I don't know if we are like technically licensed to use the code like locally. So Fernando, um, I think that one thing to look into. I think unlicensed makes sense, but I think there's just you can look into how you would identify us as being allowed to like run the code and contribute to the code if that's necessary. Just an
All
idea.
right. Oh yeah, that's cool. So like if you guys want to look into it too further, now that we're mentioning, because licenses are like a important thing on a project. So like I'm gonna push this tab over to a new window real quick so you can see what I'm looking at. This is the site I like to use, chooselicense.com, and it talks about the basic licenses, and it gives you other options. And then like if you don't want to choose a license, what happens? And then I'll just open that in a new window and show you. And it'll say like if you're going unlicensed, it'll say I guess at a some type of legal standpoint what's going on with that if you set it at no license. But if you want to go with the license, you can, select one of these. If you need to work in a community, I want it simple and permissive, I care about sharing, things like that, then you're gonna choose one of these other types of license. So like it could be maybe for the project we're doing, we want to do a little bit more, look into a little bit more on what our license are as far as options go, and then go ahead and yeah, because this one's by GitHub, this site, and then go ahead and uh, maybe change that at some point in the future. So just so you guys know, I'll put that link inside the chat, um, inside our
I added it
chat.
already.
So
Yeah.
yeah, all right. So that's a good one. That's another good link I like. All right, so now that we did that, it says now we got to install parcel and okay, so we have our object, and basically when we start adding bootstrap and other development or just dependencies to our project, you're gonna see this file start changing. There's only so many changes you want to do to the project yourself, like usually in the scripts area, maybe in maybe in these little areas here. But once the dev dependencies are set, you don't start typing changes in it. You have to do the changes from the terminal for that. And then there's going to be another. Eventually, we're going to have another uh, file that's generated, which will be a package lock JSON, and that one you don't want to modify at all. That one is you just leave that one alone. Um, that one automates itself. It automatically changes as you update dependencies or development dependencies in your project. All right, so we're at um, so me, I'm on step two. It's saying to use the save dev flag, which just means that it's just gonna be we're gonna install parcel in this project basically, and not globally on our machine. And that's how I like to do it with this using that flag, because I don't want parcel global or any. I just want to use it for this project because I might use a different bundler depending on what I'm doing, what project I'm building. So for here we're using and these, like I said, these ones I'm just explaining to you so you know what it is, how it is to set up a basic setup for a project. But you don't have to copy this along because a lot of this is going to be already given to you when you pull from the GitHub when after I push this. So you just run that command, and then it just it's gonna do the rest for you. Make sure you have a good internet connection. And sometimes you'll disagree depending on your project or the project setup you want. Sometimes you're gonna look at the docs and be like, "Well, I don't want to set it up like this. I want something different." Well, maybe you do, and then you got to modify it. All right, so now you see it changed on its own. We have development dependencies here, and one of them is parcel. So that's what I mean is like this file is going to start changing as we add things to it, but you never want to go in here and change any of this info. Just leave it alone. You're not supposed to mess with this. This is just telling you what one of your development dependencies are and what version you're using. And the way you change the version, if you would want to at any time, is you would have to do it in the terminal. I don't believe you can just type in the latest version here and it's going to do it automatic. I've never seen it done like that. Have you, Rigel?
Yeah, you can edit that. You can edit that manually, but it will require that you rerun npm install
Okay.
in order to fetch the actual package and download it to Node modules.
All right. Yeah, I didn't know that. I've never done it like that. I've always been like taught when I was taught, I've always been taught just do it in the terminal. Don't mess with it. All right. So that's good to know that you can do it manually if you like, and then you'll have to run the command to install the right packages. All right. The next one, install Bootstrap. And then we're also gonna install Popper because Popper is another JavaScript library that Bootstrap uses. So like we might use things in Popper, we might not, but for now, I would just say install them and set them up at a where we're using, I guess where we're calling the whole because later on we'll explain imports and exports. So for right now, one step at a time. I don't want to get too far ahead. We're just gonna run the command on step 3 if you're there to install Bootstrap and Popper, and we're gonna do that. And then you'll see it's gonna our package JSON is gonna add that to the dependencies here. So now we have Bootstrap 532 and we have Popper.js. All right, so we're past step 3, and now we need our project structure. And now when you're doing your project structure, there's 2 ways to do it. You could do it in the terminal, the way it suggests, using the object, or you could do it, which will probably, I think, which is actually, yeah, if we run these commands one after the other, it's actually faster. Or you can, if you don't feel comfortable with the terminal, you could do it manually and just add a file, add a folder, add a file, blah blah blah, things like that. Um, so let's see if I don't believe I can run these both. Yeah, all right, yeah. So I think it let me. All right, so let's see. It did. All right, cool. So if you just copy that, if you want, if you're, or wait, you don't have to follow along. That's right. But okay, so you can, and it's gonna run the if you run like for example, if you copy 2 git commands here at the same time, it's gonna run that first one the to make a directory. So this is like how you create a directory with your source folder, source with a JS file, and then you're inside of your source folder, you're gonna have an SCSS file. So now if we go up here, that's what it did right now. It created a source folder. It did a little more than that, but or where we're at, I believe no, it didn't. Okay, so it didn't give us the
It didn't run the second command
yeah, the
yet.
second command. Yeah.
It just
So
filled it in for you.
yeah, now we run the second command, and then we should get our files. And then let's see. There we go. So now we have our index.html page, our SCSS, and don't get worried about SCSS or SAS. We're not going to be using it all scary like you guys might think. You can actually, at a basic level, you can technically run just base straight up CSS in an SCSS file, and it's going to still recognize it. But you do want to go to SAS's documentation. We'll go there at some point, so that way you can at least start implementing SAS at a basic level in that file, because it's not that hard. It's not that bad. It's when you're using a lot of their additional features that they provide. That's when you want to go a little more in depth on the study with it. But we're not going to be running it like for example, we're not going to the way we're doing it here is we're going to be running a normal index HTML file with our structure, and but we're not going to be running. In other words, we're not going to create like a div and then a class and then develop our app natively in JavaScript from that point forward through DOM manipulation. That's not what we're doing because a lot of you guys are still learning. So we're gonna do it just straight up like this, and the index HTML is gonna look similar to like if you have used an index HTML like just learning because I wanted to keep it like user friendly for you guys when you guys were learning. All right, so what I like to do, like just boilerplate, I'll do Shift 1 and hit Enter, And that's just basically shift one gives you that bang symbol, then you hit enter, and it just gives you the boilerplate you need in your HTML file just to just as a starter, just to be so you can start. And it's not by no means ready yet, but this is just like so you don't have to type in all this stuff yourself. But at some point, you're gonna want to go through it and see what all this stuff is doing, and just even just so you know, um, if you're curious and see what all this stuff is doing, and then you can easily like research that online. It's not too bad. All right, so we have our structure, our folder structure, and then now we got to configure it. So part of the configuration was to fill in the index HTML. I did the shift one enter because I just don't sometimes like just copying and pasting off websites because sometimes they don't have a lot of sometimes they don't have like some of these meta tags you need for like for example, this meta tag is important and this meta tag is important. And without these, some places they just do everything sometimes without these tags, and that's not how you want to set it up if you're going to set it up for responsiveness or for the today's current browsers to host a project in today's current browsers. So we'll just go with that. Um, I didn't want to be all right. Document. I'm going to replace document here, and I'm going to set it up the way they had initially, and then we could change that. Actually, we don't have to do that. This title can be our project, but we haven't named our project yet. I just following the documentation so you guys can, if you're following, you can see what I'm doing. But normally our title would be our title of our project. It's not going to be Bootstrap or Parcel forever. So I'll just set it up this way just for now, and then we'll go ahead and change it. And then inside the body tag, you'll see inside the body tag on that direction or on the instruction one in this section of the documentation, which is configure parcel. It's going to give us a div and it's going to give us some Bootstrap classes. Um, and it's going to give us an H1 header tag, and then it's going to give us a button, and it's going to style that with classes. And the label's basically primary button because the color's the primary color. I'll have to explain it when you see it. But like, don't worry about this. Normally, you wouldn't name a button primary button. All right, so we're gonna save that, and then we'll go into a little bit when you get into the Bootstrap documentation. You're gonna be using a lot of classes for styling in Bootstrap. You're gonna be using a lot of their classes. You'll have to go in and say, okay, what is a container? What is it doing in Bootstrap? You have to go in and say, okay, what is py-4? What is it doing? And px-3 was doing mx-auto, what is it doing? It's just like basically some of this is like shorthand css written in line, because that's basically what it is because that's what how it's a css framework, and it's going to use css basically built into Bootstrap because we're using Bootstrap as a css framework, so that way it could do a lot of the styling for us, and it does a lot of the responsiveness for us. There's very little configuration we're going to have to do after that. And then it has its own built-in dark mode if we want to add dark mode to it. Um, so Bootstrap is a little picky dependent, when you start using its classes to style. But all right, so let's go. We'll get into that some other time. All right, so on the scripts tag, now we're adding parcel npm scripts. And me, uh, I'm not going to say that. I'm not trying to modify this yet. I'd rather just set it up for development, and that's what we're doing right now. It's not set up right now for, well, maybe it is. We'll have to look at the docs, but I'm pretty sure we would have to be running. Normally, we would run our in our package JSON. We would run this test folder. That just leave it alone. But this is where they want us to run our start command or our start script. So like it'll be basically npm start, and it's gonna run the parcel server, and it's gonna run it at this location in our index HTML in our public URL, which is gonna be our local host. If you guys ever heard of localhost 3000, and it's gonna build a dist file. It's gonna build a dist directory, but a dist file, which is basically gonna be similar to a build file, but I don't technically call this a build file because Parcel actually has a build command that you want to use to build the file initially. This is like more like for just for now. This initial setup is just for development purposes because we're not nowhere close. But when we do get close to that point where we want to run a build file, we're gonna have to come back to this package JSON and set it up so we can run a build. And then we'll have to change this line a little bit, just a little bit. All right, so for now, I'm just gonna go with the documentation so it's not confusing. And at this point, we should be good. Oh yeah, and they say that Parcel has a plugin. If you'll notice in instruction 1, before I jumped ahead, they have a plugin, or Parcel has one that detects whether we're using SCSS, and or you can install that manually. Usually, when things give me an option to install things manually, like myself, to push in the command, I'll do that myself. I'll just install the SAS transformer from Parcel right now. Like I don't want to just wait to see if it detects it or not. But it gave us a
That has
couple.
the
Yeah,
period at the end. That's not part of the
yeah,
command.
yeah. But yeah, it just me normally that's how I do it. I don't want to wait to see if it detects it or not. There we go. It should work now. And then it'll add it to our project. Well, it used to add it to our project. I wonder why I didn't add it this time. That's weird.
I think it
All
just
right.
didn't refresh, probably,
Yeah, maybe it just didn't refresh.
or didn't.
Failed to save package
Strange.
JSON. The content of this file is newer. Please compare a version with the file contents. Overwrite the compare. Oh, because I haven't saved the
Because you
changes
edit
yet.
it without saving. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So it prevented it from collaborating the save changes.
We'll
Okay.
just override it, and then if I have to, we'll
Yeah.
just override it, and then I could change it if it.
Re-add the script or whatever.
Yeah. All right, now it should be good. Aye, aye, aye. Always jumping ahead. See, that's why sometimes when you're following instructions on documentation, you don't want to just start jumping ahead. All right.
Yeah, so for anyone that missed it, what happened was he had his change on the file from copying the start command in the script section, and that had a conflict with the terminal command installing the SAS plugin.
So here we go. Now we got the SAS plugin and no conflicts. But yeah, that's exactly right because when I made this change, I should have saved it before I ran the command for any dev dependencies or for any dependencies, and I didn't. So like when we're installing dependencies in our project, make sure if you've edited any file, like normally I have that habit, and this file it's not set to autosave, but then sometimes you don't want things autosaving, but it's a good habit to get into, especially like package JSON or JavaScript files to save, especially in the index HTML. Maybe you're building a component with Bootstrap, and if you forget to save and you try to run it, it's gonna show you. It's not gonna show you. It'll show you in your environment um, something that's not what you coded out. In other words, like if you added a button, the button's not going to be there until you save it and then you refresh the development server, depending on how you have it set up. But I think that mine's already set up, so I just save and then it automatically refreshes the. I think the parcel detects that and automatically refreshes the development server on save. So just make sure you're saving when you make changes in the actual project. Um, all right, now jumping back ahead where we're at, the next instruction is to run the command npm start. So technically, if we run the command, let me close all this craziness. I don't know which browser it's gonna pop up in, but if it pops up in the one I have open or the one that I have hidden, we're gonna see right now. All right, so I'll just go back here. We're not dealing with that file anymore. There's other things we gotta do though. This is not done yet. I'm just following their instructions. All right, so you'll see it ran it, but it's not going to show you nothing yet. You have to make sure you do a control click here. So it's running. It's running at localhost 1234. That's just the way Parcel set up. It's not going to be at localhost 3000 like most people are used to seeing. Just do a control click, and then it's going to open that. It opened it in the one I have open. Why is it doing that? It keeps connecting to another repository. That is crazy. All right, so don't worry about this Devicon. That's for another project I'm working on for another company. But uh, this one right here is what we're. This is what we're worried about here. So right now, the reason why it's black and white is because we haven't added Bootstrap CSS or Bootstrap JavaScript. Well, mainly Bootstrap CSS to our files yet. We're gonna do that next. But basically, we got something going here. So I'm gonna hide that for a second. Maybe I should push it. No, I'll hide it for a second, and then you guys will see it. It would probably would have been better if I maybe was it gonna let me? No, I think because my second screen, it's not gonna let me. It's not gonna let me store that on that side. All right, I'll just keep going. Whatever. All right, so that's the next thing we gotta do. Where is it? Is it here? No, that's not it. Where? Oh yeah, it's right here. The same. All right, nothing. I'm a nerd. All right, so here we go. Back to Bootstrap's document. We have to import um, Bootstrap CSS, and me. Uh, I'm just going to import all of Bootstrap CSS for now. At the end, once we know what we've used, we can go ahead and edit things. So like, for example, I just import all of Bootstrap CSS, and then I'm going to import all of Bootstrap's JavaScript. And that importing all of the CSS isn't necessarily a bad thing. We're fine with that, but all the JavaScript is kind of somewhat necessary and unnecessary at the same time at this point in the project because we don't know what parts of their JavaScript we're gonna use yet. But whatever we don't use, we can just change that the way we're importing, and just if we're using any of it, we can change the way we imported it, and then only so when we build a build file, it's only gonna have the JavaScript that we need rather than all of Bootstrap's JavaScript. But for now, we're gonna do the command to import, or we're actually importing through Sass. This is how you import through Sass into a SCSS file. We're gonna import all of Bootstrap's CSS, their library, so we can use it. We have access to it. Now that I've saved that, if we go back, well, we'll wait till I save it. All right, so hmm, I wonder, I wonder why it didn't. All right, so we'll figure that out right now. It should have already. All right, so now we're gonna go to the JavaScript, and I'm gonna copy that. We're gonna go. So I went into the Sass or the CSS files, and I just imported their Bootstrap's SCSS. Now I'm in the JavaScript file, and I want to install or import all of Bootstrap's JavaScript. So that's set up. And then, like I was saying, you'll notice in the documentation, it's going to say if we want any of these plugins individually to keep the sizes down on the bundle, then we're going to go ahead and there's different ways that we're going to install that. We can, if it's just, this at the top example is just to install an alert for the JavaScript for an alert component. And the bottom one is if we're using multiple components, but we're not using all of them. We're just going to put inside of that the curly braces there what components we are gonna, that we want the JavaScript from for our project, basically. Uh, Supposedly at this stage, we should have had this thing refresh and but I've had a problem with some of these sometimes where I have to close them and then rerun them. So I gotta close this. So I'm gonna kind of try to, man, I should have been able to do that. I don't know why my, okay, let me see if I can do that for now. Let me do this one. There we go. So you can see it change. Supposedly it should have done that. If you noticed, I had to close out of it because when I was trying to save, it wasn't refreshing on the right hand side. But the server that's built into Parcel should automatically on save refresh. So now, if I run the start command, it's gonna build it, and then I'm gonna go ahead and close this one. And if I go back to localhost 1234, and it's not working. All right. So there's something else going on here. Let me go back to the documentation, see if I missed a step. I'm pretty sure I did it. So we imported into SCSS, import bootstrap. Yeah, that was right. Oh, I didn't link the file. That's right. Uh, duh. So I just noticed did a rookie mistake, which is the usual. I didn't get my link or my script and connect them to my header in my HTML. Rookie. All right, so I committed a rookie mistake here, and I'm going to show you what that is. Normally, inside of your HTML file, when we're using HTML files and CSS JavaScript, you have to link. Well, most of the time, you always got to link them. We'll just say that I forgot to link my CSS to the HTML page and the JavaScript to the HTML page. Now, when I refresh, um, we're gonna get Bootstrap styles on our page. Now it should work, and then it's rebuilding, or it should be building, and there it goes. So now we have Bootstrap on our project. So then I could just push this to the GitHub repository, and then you guys will be able to pull it, and then we should be able to work on a Bootstrap project from here. But I gotta do the commands, right? Yeah, we still gotta set the command that you guys might. I don't think you guys will have to necessarily. You might. No, I think you still will at this point. You're gonna have to run the npm init all over again. All right, so that's all we needed that for. Let me close that. Does anybody have any questions at this point about anything we did? No.
No.
All right. All right. So I'm gonna kill the server because now we have our starter file set up. Here, let me just get rid of all that. I don't like seeing all that junk in my terminal. I like it nice and clean all the time. All right, so uh, close that, close that. All right, so there was two ways to do this. Normally I use the source control, and it's probably not going to let me right now because it's, oh wait, yeah, it is. All right, it should let me here. So I just select it like how you seen me. If it says manage unsafe repositories, I don't know how it's going to first connect. We'll check individually when we get there. Let's see if you guys have any issues with that. But now it's going to push, it's going to, like we got to stage all these changes in the GUI. This is how you do it. You just hit commit, and then it's going to say that nothing
I would
staged.
yeah, one thing I would actually, if you can add a git update your git ignore so you can take some of those Windows only files out, that'd be great.
Yeah. So let's cancel. Good catch. Good catch. I forgot about that. So Rigel's exactly right. I forgot to add the git ignore file. So the way you add that is git ignore, but you guys don't have to worry about that. This is just so like for those of you that haven't set up a project before, you can see how it goes to just to set it up, just to start the project with a bundler. We're gonna add a .git ignore file, and inside of that, we're gonna add the files we wanted to ignore. And the files that we're talking about ignoring here is that we don't want to push to our GitHub repository. The node modules is the basic one you don't want. Oops, node underscore. Make sure you spell it exactly the way it is. So we have node modules. Is there any other one you recommend? I don't really normally care about the cache or the disk, but should we ignore those two or what?
Well, you could look at the git changes and see which files it's throwing in the repo and see what you want to exclude. I saw a lot of Windows files, like a PowerShell file and stuff like that. But I'm not sure. Like, yeah, maybe just check the file list and see if there's stuff that you obviously don't want in. Basically, there are various files that can be environment specific, or they can be derived files, like the node modules is an example, because all of the packages that you need are specified in the package.config, so you don't need to save the actual like module files, like the bootstrap files themselves, to the repository, because when someone grabs the repository, they can install it based on the package.config. So maybe we just look at this quickly and see if there's anything that stands out.
Yeah, it looks like it took out all that other stuff.
Oh yeah, great. Maybe yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it took out everything except what we need. I mean, the partial cache and the disk, I don't think is a big problem because it's going to update on everybody's side as everybody's pushing. It'll update and then we pull. So that's another important thing too. We'll get to explaining is that before you start working on the project that we're working on as a group, you pull first, and then make sure you have all the latest changes, and then you start developing, and then you push. And then we all don't want other types of clashing, which there's other issues that could exist. So like maybe two of us shouldn't be working on the same component at the same time. So then you'd have to coordinate with somebody if you are working on that at the same time. But things like that, there's certain things you want to either coordinate with your group or be working on, so that way, or do things a certain type of way, so that we're not having like clashing or any what do you call those
There's
uh,
conflicts with.
conflicts. There you go. So now if I push commit,
Yeah,
it's gonna prompt me again, and then I always just say, well, you have to say yes. You have to stage them. There's another way you can stage them. I believe you come here, and then you can just select stage somewhere, maybe. Okay, so you'd have to still go to commit, and then you'd still have to stage it. So like,
I think
uh,
you can select the files in the browser to the left. Like, could you select the files there on the left and like highlight them, and then like highlight shift select all of them, and then stage them that way? Like, it's showing those changes. Can you like shift and pick styles that's SCSS or whatever, or just like select all of them, jump to the bottom file? Yeah, or that whatever. And then I think the plus is probably the stage, the shortcut, I'm
yeah,
guessing.
there we go. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, but I don't. Do you think? I think it will. Will it do all of them? Ah, it did. I think it did. Yeah, it did. Stage 20. All right. So yeah, that is a good, quicker way to do it. All right. So then we got them all
Yeah, generally
staged.
you want to be generally you want to be pretty intentional about what you're staging, and you don't always want to stage all the files at once. You just want to stage the ones that you want to change. And whenever you commit, you want to check through your files to make sure it's not including stuff you don't want.
That's a good one. All right. So then we're gonna now if we hit commit, it's gonna prompt us to create a message. So like if we hit commit, it's gonna prompt us here to create a message for our changes. I'll just put starter files and bundler or something like that. What do you recommend? What do you think?
A pretty common standard is to be, what is it called? There's a certain tense. Let me just look this up real quick.
All right.
So the imperative tense. So basically, to describe it as an action, so let me just double check this. So it'd be like add initial add bootstrap starter files or something, but as add, not added. Added would be past tense, and add would
Yeah.
be the imperative tense. And so that's kind of a standard that a lot of projects align on for clarity. So you can use whatever verb you'd like, include or add or initialize, but just add starter files, something along those lines.
Yeah. Okay, so like I usually like just shorthand a lot of this stuff if I can, but like just because like you're only limited to I think you're only limited I think inside of the GUI. Otherwise it starts I don't think it lets you type past a certain point, it'll turn red on you. But it's not meant to be, typing in a paragraph here. It should be pretty simple. Um well we
One
did
thing,
add
that parcel cache, should that actually be? I don't know that should be included actually.
yeah, I'm not sure either,
I
but
think
like
that's
I
I think
normally
that's just
just
for the
like
build.
yeah, because
Yeah,
it,
that's
it
just for the
is.
build. I would say let me look it up real quick. Um, uh,
But like, yeah, I usually I include it, but that's usually in my build file. But like, yeah, you're right. Like, you just development. That's why I was saying we probably don't need it. But I don't know. I don't think it's gonna
because
hurt.
parcel configuration. Because where's parcel store configuration again?
Uh, oh yeah, the parcel
Yeah, parcel
configuration.
parcel cache should be in git ignore. So I would throw in parcel cache to git ignore. I mean,
Okay.
those files are going to change frequently. So, and they're
Yeah.
derived from the parcel configuration, which is like zero configuration by default, which means it has things it automatically does. But yeah, I would just make that change. Yeah, for anyone that isn't familiar, what we're doing right now is we identified that there's some files that are going to be saved to the repo that should actually be excluded because those are automatically created by Parcel, and they don't specify config or anything for the repo. They're just kind of temporary files or working files.
All right. So it was trying to force
So
me
yeah,
to
I think
send
you
what I
need
already said. I think I gotta just exit. Yeah.
close. Yeah, just close that out, and then you'll need to unstage the files as well.
Yeah.
So you can just like shift select the cache
Whoops.
files,
Oh
or
yeah.
just
So
do
we
them
still
all
got.
and then re-add.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Let's.
It looks like it's a 7D3 file down to the lock.mdb file, but you can just do them all and re-add them too. Like see the 7D3, that right there? It looks like it's that down to the lock.mdb.
All right.
Like six more files. So you can just exit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That one too. Yeah. That looks better. Thanks. Yeah, I just, this is just being picky about things being super clean. So uh
No, it's all right. That's good. I don't mind. All right. So we shouldn't have anything from partial cache getting pushed in here. All right. This is just our map files. Everything else should be fine. All right. So then we should be good to go now. Now, if we finally commit it, we should be fine. Huh? What do you think about the?
oh, sorry. One more thing. Is that the dist file?
Yeah, the
Is that the
disk.
dist? That's
Yeah. So this one too. That's what I
yeah.
was
So that
asking
should
from
be
the beginning.
excluded from ignore.
If we should
Yeah.
exclude the disk too. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
because like.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
that includes files with like randomized names. So every time someone rebuilds, it might generate different files. So you wouldn't want those to be saved to the repo because they're just going to be local to like people's own environment.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So now we're gonna start. That's good. So then all we should have is our source JS, CSS or SCSS, index HTML, and whatever else we've got going on here in green. So package lock, yeah, and our git ignore. So we should be fine. Yeah, that's good. And narrowed it down. I mean, that's a lot of files. We're not just slapping in there anymore. All right. So let's just stage them. I'm gonna stage them that way because we already know we want to stage all these
Yeah.
files. And then we'll say starter files and bundler. All right. Well, anything else you think we should add to that we did, or should we just let it be?
Good.
Add it good. All right. So now it's saved. You'll notice you control save it, and then once you close it, it'll prompt you to sync your changes. This is just for the GUI, and then you just hit sync, and then you hit OK because it's going to the origin, the master or the main branch where we want it to go, so everybody has it. Or that's at least how we want to start it. And then I always click ask me later or no, or on some of these things, don't worry about that prompt. But now that we've done that, you'll see if you go back to the GitHub, let me refresh though, it should look different now. There we go. So now we have initialized starter files, everything's good to go. And then if you guys, now that this has been updated, the commands that way, if you guys wanted to pull, um, or you can run what should we do? Have them run a command or have them do it from the GUI? So if you guys are
Well, one thing is it's 11. I'm saying it's 11:03 now. I
oh,
have
it's
time to
11.
stick around a little bit, but how are people doing on time? Do they want to do a few more minutes or do they want to pick it up later?
I can spare another 30 minutes.
And then anyone that needs to run, we're gonna have some instructions that we put together from this. So don't worry too much about missing things.
All right. Yeah, and then I was recording this so that way I'm gonna post it online so that way you guys can go back and rewatch it too. All right. So
Well, and then what was the question about what we do next?
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna use the GUI real quick just to show them how they can do it in the GUI and pull it if they want. So like all you do is you go back to your source control option and then you go here and you just hit pull. And if once you click on pull, it's gonna pull the code from the GitHub repository and you should update your files so you have all these files in your project as well. So you should be up to date at that point. If you already connected, if you haven't connected already, then you'll have to rewatch this video to learn how to connect and then get to that stage where you're ready to pull. But I use the GUI just because it's just quick and easy, and I like it. I like the GUI. But basically, you can type in all these commands in the terminal. You can just get pull or whatever command you want, and it'll pull from the repository. I believe you still need the. No, I think once you're connected, or you just use the command, you're not gonna have to worry about. Or I'm talking about the terminal anyway. You're not gonna have to worry about using the repos link itself. You just once you're connected. You should be able to pull it that way too. But the GUI just for me is just easy, and I'm like that. I like the GUI. I just go here and just everything is here, whatever I need to do. Um, and pull is right here up top. Push same thing if you're gonna push anything, but pull. Usually when you save, that's what you're doing. Like if you make changes to the project and then you save everything, your source control here is going to detect all those changes and it's going to start highlighting everything. And you're going to have to repeat the steps like I repeated earlier to push all that the new changes into the repository. But I think it's going to be good to like for you guys to just pull this for now, like just pull it and get up to make sure you're up to date. And then next time we'll pick up where we left off, and then I'll have a development branch set up, and then we'll get connected to the development branch because we should be developing on a development branch, and the main branch is usually just reserved for production. All right. Anybody else? Any questions?
Hi, this is Tiffany. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? You doing good? Haven't
I'm
heard from
pretty
you in a little
good.
bit.
Yes, I've been busy with work and school.
All right. Well, you still
I just
have
missed the.
yeah, you still have a
Uh-huh.
week. You still have a week in the mentorship program. So whenever you're ready to come and join us, there's a you know what I mean you can come and join us whenever you're ready. Just let me know. Just DM me.
Okay, sounds good. I wanted to join this project, but I missed the beginning about the GitHub. I
It's
know you
okay.
guys recorded, but I'm not.
Yeah, I recorded this one and just rewatch this one. If you feel like there's any pieces missing, let me know and I'll do another recording.
Okay. Where will you post this recording?
It's gonna be on the YouTube channel. So if you go to, it should be. It's pretty new. I just made it. So if you go to YouTube and you search the channels and you search for Dark Mode Devs, it's gonna be there.
Could you add a
Okay.
link in the
Yeah,
dark mode
yeah,
project channel as well?
yeah. We'll add that link.
Okay.
But you'll see. I'll have to figure out where I get the link to the. Where's my link?
Okay.
Normally it has a spot
I
where I can
sent.
get the link and then I'll share it with you guys in the channel. But right now there's one video and then we're gonna start adding videos and don't worry, I'll be adding more videos and things like that to the channel. I'll get you guys
Okay.
the link in the yeah, here we go.
Okay.
I'll
I
post the
sent you
link for you guys.
a message for my email for the invite for the GitHub.
All right. All right. Yeah, send me your username for the GitHub repo and we'll update that. I'll get you that.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you guys for showing up. I know I'm a little bit all right, just I don't want you guys worried about me. But yeah, all right. So I'm a little bit spacey. I went through a concussion from a car accident, but I'm getting better. So if we missed anything, I apologize. If I was a little bit off, I apologize. If you leave me some feedback, that'll be cool. If you guys want to go to the uh, assets or the not the assets. I'm thinking about the code still. If you want to go to the event feedback channel, if you guys want to leave me any feedback, if you think there's anything I could do better or anything you want to see in the future, or even if you watch the videos, maybe I'll use maybe I'll do the channel for like YouTube video feedback. or maybe you guys can leave me feedback in that channel too, is regarding videos. But like I have this event feedback channel. If you see it, I made it. Nobody's really posting anything there, but like you don't have to, so don't feel obligated. But I really appreciate it if you did, just so I can get feedback from you on what I could do better or what you would like to see added to anything that we're doing, or to the videos or anything like that. All right. So hope you guys all have a blessed Sunday, and I hope to see you guys again next Sunday.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Same time, right? 10 o'clock, your time?
Yep, 10 a.m. AZ time. Yeah.
Okay.